solo board gaming night here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Marvel Zombies, a Zombicide game. As always, I'm going to give you an overhead view of the table so you get an idea of just how much space this game takes up. At first glance, you could tell immediately that this game takes up a massive amount of space on your table. Once you have everything laid out the way you see here, the cards, the miniatures, and the things that you need to play, as well as put together the largest map, which is what you see here, you're going to need what seemingly feels like a city block worth of table space to play this game. With that out of the way, I want to go ahead and take a look at the box and see what's inside. As a lifelong Marvel fan, I completely appreciate the look of this box. From the cover to the sides, and I'm just going to take a moment here so you all can see what it is that I see when I open this box. Even underneath, when you open the actual cover, the artwork that surrounds the box itself is jaw-droppingly beautiful. As I mentioned, as a Marvel fan, this is one of the coolest, neatest, and awesome looking boxes that I own. And to even add more awesomeness to it, the back of the box really gets you excited to get your hands on the game. I wish that excitement would have carried over as soon as I opened the box, but just like every other CMON game I own, the lack of insert or ability to store your game properly just leaves you with a box full of baggies and your tiles just thrown on top. It really bothers me that game companies do this. I don't understand what's so difficult about putting a proper insert or including a proper insert, considering the amount of money we put into these Kickstarters. And we get such a ho-hum, below average way of storing our game. I really wish companies would do more, would do better for the people that spend hundreds of dollars sometimes to purchase and play an anticipated game. Although I really do not appreciate the lack of storage for the components of the game, at least when it comes to the miniatures, given the box that it's included, it's all stored very nicely and safe as well. You could move or even sometimes even drop your box on accident. I'm pretty sure your miniatures would survive. But the box also includes all of the cards, the tokens, the dice, and pretty much everything that you need to play the game. That lack of storage for the components is really a shame. I do want to acknowledge that the rulebook, in my opinion, apart from looking really cool, is very well made. In my opinion, I believe that all the instructions are clearly laid out. I never had a problem learning how to play, and the actual amount of pages, which was only 22 pages, gave me everything I needed to learn and start playing right away. The second half of the book is basically all the missions you're going to play, and it's bookended by a reference sheet that can help guide you through the rounds. With that out of the way, let's go over just the basics on how to play the game. Since I already reviewed Zombicide 2nd Edition and went through great detail on how to play the game, I'm just going to go over the new game mechanics included in Marvel Zombies. The biggest change to the gameplay is the fact that you play as the zombie this time. The pimp crates and items that you used to find in 2nd Edition are gone. In its place, you'll be able to find what's called zombie traits, which give you different abilities that you can add to your character. New to Marvel Zombies is the addition of bystanders. I'll get into more detail on how they work and what they do, but just know every bystander has a different way of acting depending on the mission you play, and they do give you benefits that I'll talk more about later. The hunger meter adds a huge twist to the gameplay mechanics of Marvel Zombies. Every round, you get hungrier. Every time you roll the dice and you roll a zombie mouth, you end up getting even hungrier. The hungrier you get, the stronger you are because you get to roll more dice. However, you also risk becoming ravenous. When this happens, your movement's limited to only moving and devouring. In that case, you will have to devour someone in order to be able to quench your hunger and finally get your full repertoire of moves available to you once again. What I really like about the devour mechanic is that once you devour an innocent bystander, you inherit an innate ability that belongs to that innocent bystander, and you have access to that ability whenever it's your turn. And the good thing about devouring is once you do, you quench your hunger meter goes all the way down to 0, and once again you get all of the abilities that you had lost while you were ravenous, and they become available again. On top of that, every hero has their own unique set of signature actions. And that's everything new to Marvel Zombies. Now, on to the review. The beautiful and highly detailed miniatures steal the spotlight here. A big part of any Zombicide game is seeing dozens upon dozens of miniatures overwhelm the game map. Marvel Zombies miniatures makes it a real treat to see your favorite infected Marvel superhero go against an unrelenting mob of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents as they consume the entire map with their presence. That's not even including the heroes with their heroic poses as they attempt to put an end to your undying hunger as you play as a zombified hero. S.H.I.E.L.D. members have multiple poses. Both heroes and zombies look just like their counterpart. The miniatures in this game are phenomenal. These are among the best looking miniatures in the business. Awesome stuff. The map tiles are colorful and incredibly detailed. When put together, they form either small, medium, or large maps with very familiar locations that fans of Marvel will easily recognize. My favorite part of the tiles are the details for the zones and rooms. They not only inform you where bystanders and spawn points are, but they also have plenty of small little details to distinguish each zone and room from one another. From office rooms to bedrooms and living rooms, every tile is meticulously detailed, and missions do a great job emphasizing the details illustrated on the double-sided tiles. There are some really neat details for Marvel fans to notice and admire. Marvel Zombies is incredibly easy to learn and play. That's especially true if you've played 2nd edition and already know the ropes. However, you still need to read the rulebook because there have been plenty of changes made to the gameplay. The rulebook was really well put together with clear and detailed instructions. Once you read the rulebook, you will rarely ever reference it during your game. After you've played a game or two, you're pretty much good to go. It's simple and straight to the point, almost guaranteeing an uninterrupted and action-packed experience once you've read through it. The art used in this rulebook is an incredibly nice bonus and something that's going to have you enjoying your time while you're reading and learning how to play the game. This was an exceptional and very, very well-made rulebook. I really appreciated it. Hands down, my favorite new gameplay mechanic is the addition of Ravenous and the Hunger mechanic. Not only is it incredibly thematic and it fits this world really well, but it's actually a very fun gameplay mechanic. It is a risk-reward mechanic that can either benefit you, but just as much as it can benefit you, it can completely be detrimental to you as well. It's like, do you risk becoming ravenous and get the ability to roll an increased number of dice and hopefully help you dwindle the forces of S.H.I.E.L.D.? That's an option, but it's a risky option, but when it's done well, it could be very helpful to you. On the flip side, you could try to satiate your hunger, avoid losing your abilities, and hopefully that'll help you make your way safely through your current turn. The bad part is you'll be having access to fewer dice that you'll be rolling. Either way you look at it, both options, there's risk to it. And devouring bystanders to receive their special abilities is one of the coolest and one of my favorite additions to this. It's so much fun. It's fun to do, something that I really enjoyed throughout my time playing Marvel Zombies. The removal of the pimp crates and the losing your ability to search for weapons, I believe, in my opinion, is a detriment to the gameplay of Marvel Zombies. On one hand, you are a superhero and it's really neat to use their abilities and powers. But on the other hand, the lack of those sometimes lucky yet powerful weapons that you found in 2nd edition decreases the options available to you in this game. Receiving trait cards just does not feel the same. Traits actually feel kind of generic to me. The saving grace is that the signature powers that belong to the zombified heroes are kind of fun, and they do fit the hero. The powers are neat, and I acknowledge that. However, after having played several games, I noticed that the removals of the weapons and the pimp crates and the items and whatnot, the game started to feel the same after a while. It could just be me, but that's how I felt. The difficulty balance and how easily it is for you to get overrun almost single-handedly ruined the game for me. For my first 8 or 10 games, I was honestly having a blast. I was adoring Marvel Zombies. I loved the idea of devouring bystanders and receiving some sort of symbiotic bond that awarded my hero with a special ability unique to that bystander. I really enjoyed that. The simplicity of the movement and the combat mixed with some fun dice-chucking mechanics had me completely hooked. Then the board game became completely overwhelmed with shield agents. The first 5 or 6 times that it happened, I was kind of laughing at the outcome. But then something that never happens to me happened. I kept getting overwhelmed by agents over and over and over again. The laughter quickly faded and frustration took its place. By the 18th, 19th, 20th game that I had played, I began to notice this pattern. The difficulty began to feel off balance. I was no longer smiling when Spider-Man or Scarlet Witch showed up. Don't even remind me of Thor or Doctor Strange. One is an unstoppable tank and the other is an extra spawn point. A spawn point! Now don't get me wrong, I get it. Doctor Strange can conjure anything he pretty much wants. Thematic? Yes. Frustrating? Absolutely. And it's difficult enough dealing with the missions, heroes, and never-ending rush of shield agents. Losing due to extra activations because Doctor Strange spawned and all the enemy figures were already on the map was rage-inducing. This happened so many times. Sure, I could just remove Doctor Strange, but then that would feel cheap to me. It ultimately feels like winning can sometimes just feel like pure luck. No amount of strategy or doing something different seems to help. Marvel Zombies desperately needs the expansions to release to rectify some of these issues that cause these insane difficulty spikes. Now, this isn't something that's unique to Marvel Zombies because Zombicide as a whole suffers from this. But the amount of clutter that can occur in one zone is the definition of insanity. It is really crazy and it becomes fiddly. The game feels fiddly. At one point, I had 35 minis in one zone alone. That is crazy. I ended up using the Avengers sign to do a massive attack. It was so massive, I needed a calculator to be able to keep track, along with the notepad to be able to remember which hits and how many hits I had. And after the fact, I still had 26 enemies remaining on that zone. To be fair, some missions were actually easier than others, and it would depend. But whenever Doctor Strange showed up, chaos definitely ensued. I didn't know whether to put this as a con or a mix because honestly, it just feels like I played half of a game. Marvel Zombies screams expansions, and I know, they're coming. I backed them as well. It just seems that there's such a better game here, and it's coming. It's just not here yet. As a matter of fact, I'm sure that when the expansions arrive, Marvel Zombies is really going to shine. I want to play the hero mode, especially that. I'm excited about that. You couple that with the fact that we're going to have an insanely huge list of heroes and zombie heroes that are coming. We're going to be able to add to the game, and it's going to be a real game changer. Again, the problem is that right now, the game not only does it not feel complete, but without the ability to add more options in the way of heroes, zombie heroes, and even the upcoming new missions and the mission modes, Marvel Zombies sadly fell short for me. Wasn't a terrible game. By far it wasn't. It just needs a little bit of that help with the extra expansions to really get where I know Marvel Zombies will one day be. A great game. In closing, the miniatures are a sight to behold. They truly are outstanding. So many details and neat poses make these minis stand tall in my collection. The detailed map tiles look awesome as well. The colors pop and every zone brings its own personality with it. They're very detailed and there's a lot of cool little homages for the die-hard Marvel fans out there. Marvel Zombies has an incredibly well-made rulebook, which makes learning how to play feel like a breeze. You'll be chomping and fighting hordes of shield agents in no time. The Devour, Ravenous, and Hunger mechanics really shine and brings a lot of fun risk and reward mechanics into the mix. Compared to 2nd edition, it did feel like there were too few options available to you gameplay-wise. The difficulty imbalance almost single-handedly ruined Marvel Zombies for me. The amount of unavoidable deaths that felt unfair to me occurred far more often than I would have liked. The amount of clutter that can occur in any given game had me pop out my calculator and take notes a lot of times. It made the game feel fiddly many times over. The game just needs more. The good news is that it's on the way, it really is. The bad news is that I have to call it as it is currently. And the way it currently is, it's an incredibly frustrating game that desperately needs expansions to save the day and truly shine. With that said, I know there's a great game that one day very near in the future we're all gonna really truly get to enjoy. Well, that's it. This was an incredibly polarizing review for me because I loved it, but I kind of hated it at the same time. But I know the future is bright for this game, so let's see what happens. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for taking the time out of your day to hang out with me. This was Solo Board Gaming Night, and I hope that you and everyone else has a great game night. Take care.